I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, March the 19th, brought to you in part by Kansas Regenerative Medical Center, one of the first and largest standalone stem cell treatment centers in the Midwest. And not stem cells from a fetus or something like that. They're your own stem cells, but they're used to help you heal. These guys are pioneers in the regenerative medical field. For more information, go to kansasrmc.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards, we're starting to run out of cattle around, guys. 7,000 head for them, which is a fairly light run considering what they've been running since the start of the calendar year. But they're going to sleep in a little bit there at Joplin, not starting until 6 a.m. You can go on to DVAuction.com, view and bid that sale. If you want to get approved, get a hold of them there at the Joplin office. They can do that for you. Don't forget, on Wednesday, March the 20th here, this Wednesday, they're going to be having a special cow sale on Wednesday afternoon starting at 4:30 after their regular cow and bull auction there. So don't miss that. Also on DVAuction.com. Market shakes off the futures. The last time I visited with you was after Thursday's debacle in your cattle futures, which it was obvious that the packers and the funds that they work with took the board down, the cattle futures board down, about $3 on the current futures contract there, more on some others. It was just a bloodbath in there after the board had been pretty friendly all week, but it didn't actually work like they thought it would. They still had to end up paying more for fat cattle. All the other classes of cattle got higher again. We are just extremely tight. And like we've been saying, I mean, as tight as we've been on cattle numbers for generations. And so, you know, they can do everything that they want to. You know, I keep telling people the futures are not the market. That's a guess of what the market could be off into the future. And they really have to finagle them to even converge whenever they come to fruit or whenever they're mature. But the market is what somebody's willing to give for cattle at a certain time, in a certain place, certain kind of cattle. You know, everybody in the fat cattle arena wants to take advantage of the price discovery that just a very few of the cattle feeders you know, established for them. It's that price discovery, guys. That's what happened in the hogs. It's what happened in the chickens 50 years before that. Whenever you stop getting a price discovery, you have to have competitive bidding in an open market to have price discovery, and then everybody wants to take advantage of that as soon as you get it. Now, the only reason that we're getting these high prices now is we still have a few old mavericks, renegades out there that are still selling their cattle in the cash market, and likely they're not getting along as well as they would if they were just following along like everybody else with some kind of a formula deal. But we've got to have somebody establish the cash market. Now, the packers love the way it is because they can pretty much manipulate the few guys, especially in the southern plains, that they buy cattle off of. But you know, they did get them to taking steady money at 185 on Thursday. But then on Friday morning, they're calling them at sunup and sending the trucks right away wanting more cattle. And we saw a much more impressive slaughter than what we thought. Middle of last week, a lot of analysts thought that maybe we were going to have a cattle slaughter around 570,000. Now, a normal slaughter would be around 630, 635. The previous week to last week, we had 583, and that was kind of a shocker to have a non-holiday regular week with that tight of a change speed. But we were thinking it was going to be even less than that, and it was looking that way all the way till the end of the week. And then the packers all of a sudden got aggressive late Thursday and on Friday, wanting more cattle. And like I said, they literally called people at 6, 7, and 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday and sent the trucks immediately wanting cattle. And then we ended up having a 15,000 head Saturday estimated slaughter. We haven't seen that this year. So did the Packers finally get their box beef cutout value market going enough where they feel like they need to get some product in their coolers to get ready for that, or what? But if we continue with this, I mean, we're going to ramp this fat cattle market up there, surpass their all-time highs, which we're right at the cusp right now. But I got to see this $2 live fat cattle market FOB. I want to see it. I know everybody else wants to see it. It would be a big threshold. I know there's going to be a lot of resistance from the Packers to get that. But these cattle feeders deserve it, guys. For what they're having to give for yearling feeder cattle, and if they're turning cattle out to graze, what they're having to give for those, they deserve $2 a pound live FOB fat cattle. We're going to be very close to 188 on our weighted average for last week, and that's going to be right there at an all-time high. So we'll just have to see what we can do with it. But what happens when we start keeping heifers back? We haven't even started keeping heifers back any more than usual, so we're not starting to rebuild that herd yet. But it's going to have to get worse before it gets better, depending how you look at it. But talking about your supplies, because we start keeping big numbers of heifers back, that's going to pull more cattle off your feeder market, and then in turn your fat cattle are going to get even tighter. But we've seen a couple articles here recently that says there is real interest in importing feeder cattle from Australia. We've never done that before. We've gotten cattle from Canada, we've gotten cattle from Mexico, we've never really gotten cattle from overseas. And there's people that are actually stirring about that and talking about it. Now, right now, it's very expensive to get those cattle over here. They do have ships that are rigged up where they could send thousands and thousands of them, keep them fed and watered and taken care of while they're doing it. But it's very expensive. Of course, there's fees and things that have to do with exporting those cattle. So it's not cost effective yet, but it's getting closer every day. Because our market just keeps going to the moon. Now, we did see something last week that we were so busy talking about the market and everything we never mentioned, but truth and labeling kinda came back last week. We've been talking about truth and labeling, and we really just don't want Packers to be able to put product of the USA on a label on something that at some point was not in the USA. Well, USDA did finalize that rule last week, saying that the Packers can no longer put product of the USA on a label if the product was not born, raised, fed, and slaughtered and processed, everything in the USA. So you think, whew, we finally got that. Good. The heck of it is, they're not going to start... that doesn't go into effect. That rule does not go into effect for 2 more years. Oh my gosh. Why? Well, why do we have to wait 2 years for that? I have no idea why we have to do that. So you think, well, that's not great. And then you look at the other thing that's not great about it is Packers don't have to put anything on the label. So if they just stop using product of the USA, which if they go, nearly 2 years without putting that on there, housewives are going to get to where they don't notice that it's not there, and it's no big deal, so they don't think anything about it. And then if it's not on there, they don't have to put anything on there. So they don't have to put that it could be a product of another country, or that it might have come from Paraguay, part of it, or something like that. They don't have to put anything if they don't want to. So that's likely what they're going to do, because they don't want the product discounted. And we always get some grinding product. We always have. We probably always will, from different countries, because we have a lot of fat trim. We can bring in grinding product that doesn't have a lot of fat in it, throw it in the hopper with our fat trim, grind it up and make something that's pretty palatable, because we've still got to have 99-cent burgers, guys, in some of these fast food joints. So, we're going to have that. But But none of these rules that applies to, even when we had mandatory cool and all that, none of it ever applied to fast food restaurants or any kind of restaurants. It was just in the supermarket. So, and even food service, it didn't apply to that. But you know, we got a little bit of truth in labeling there, if you want to call it that. But it's better than what it was. Still a long ways from mandatory country of origin labeling, which I don't think we'll ever get, because they would have to list every product that it quite possibly could have come from. And when they do that, that slows production significantly, because you have to sterilize those plants every time you run even one head from somewhere else through before you can start doing something else, or you got to put all of them on there. And I just don't see your packers agreeing to do that. And they have a lot of lobbying power, a lot of which comes from your checkoff dollars. But let's talk about your board for last week. April live cattle futures, Monday was unchanged. Tuesday up 65. Wednesday was up 167. We were thinking we were getting along really well. Then Thursday down 297. Going to try to break the thing. Friday back up 30 cents, with April live cattle ending the week at 187 and a quarter, which was actually down 35 cents for the week. And your fat cattle market was about $3 higher on a cash trade. Your June contract ended the week at 183.60. That was up 18 cents for the week. Feeder cattle for March last week, Monday was down 95, but then Tuesday was up 72, and Wednesday was up $1.30, and then Thursday they whacked at $2.80 with that big sell-off there, and then Friday it came right back $1.80 higher. So by the end of the week, your March feeder cattle contract closed at 249.27, which was about steady, or down just 7 cents for the week. April was down 202 at 252.17, because on Thursday they broke it nearly $5. But your grains, May corn, nothing on March anymore. So May corn ended the week at 436 3/4. May beans ended at 11.98 1/4, and Kansas City hard red winter wheat for May ended the week at 566 1/4, which was down 22.5 cents for the week. Your fat cattle trade up through Thursday, we'd seen a decent trade, enough to establish a market, but then more on Friday. But live sales up through Thursday were from 181 to 190, which was $3 higher on the price spread. Your weighted average on live steers up through Thursday was 187.82. That was over $2.50 higher than the previous week. Dress sales ranged up through Thursday from 294 to 301 dressed, $1 to $4 higher. Your weighted average on dress steers through Thursday was 298.41. That was up just over $5 than the previous week. Big gains despite them crashing the board on a Thursday. When that doesn't work, what are they going to do? They're going to have to stir up some kind of a black swan event or something, you know. We're in an election year. What could possibly happen? But on Friday we saw more trade, and it was near the top of the price ranges through the week. Iowa sold 7,100 on Friday, almost 25,000 for the week. Live price on Friday 187 to 189.50. Dress sales from 297 to 298. Nebraska sold nearly 17,000 on Friday. And for the week, 23,100. Live sales on Friday, 186 to 188. Dress sales from 296 to $3. Kansas, 5,400 on Friday. Almost 11,000 for the week. 186 was the price. We saw some 185 on Thursday, but by the end of the week, it was solidly 186 in the Southern Plains. Little bit of dress trade in northern Kansas at 298. Texas sold 4,500 on Friday. They hadn't hardly sold anything before that, and all at 186 in Texas. Box beef cutout values were higher again, so that's taking a little bit of pressure off the packers. They're finally getting these box beef cuts higher. Choice cuts, your weighted average on all of last week was 310.39. That was up $4.46 compared to the weighted average from the previous week. And your late Friday sales ending the week were about $1.50 higher than that weighted average. Select sales, weighted average on all of last week's select cuts, $300.72. That was up nearly $5 compared to the previous week's weighted average. And your late Friday sales on your select cutouts was about $1.50 higher than that weighted average also. But your choice select spread very narrow, less than $10, $9.67, and all of that based on 462 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, which is actually kind of tight on your spot market there for choice cutouts. Your slaughter last week, like I said, 601,000. That was 18,000 more than the previous week. All of it at the end of the week, but still 27,000 less than the same week a year ago. But I mentioned earlier that 15,000 head Saturday. Let's talk about what else is going on. Farapiece is the revolutionary product that is scientifically proven. You guys think, well, what is that pixie dust that you put over their pole and over their muzzle? Well, no, it's a synthetic analog of maternal bovine appeasing substance. And is naturally secreted by the skin of the mammary gland of the cow, of a lactating cow, and it basically eliminates stress. You know, when you get in tight to your mother's bosom, you get pretty stress-free. Well, that's the way these cattle are, and it's not just for lightweights, it's for cattle, you know, on through the growth stages there. But for more information, and for amount of good that it could do for you, and only $3 a dose, guys, check out Farapiece.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction ended the week at 250.228, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states. That was up $3.02 for the week. Big gains, guys. And we saw it go right past 250. It doesn't do that. It doesn't get to 250. It reached 250 and just kept going. Now your CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index has not gotten that high. It's the latest available was 249 even. And it kind of amazes me how it can be even like that. Some significant direct trade goes into that, and I think keeps it under wraps. But let's talk about your cash trends in your brick and mortar sale barns for last week. Feeders were steady to $3 higher, and we actually saw some pressure on some heavier feeders there late in the week because they're really getting high, guys. But stocker cattle were $5 to $8 fully, especially some lighter grazing yearlings. If you see those in a thinner condition, oh my gosh, they'll go after them, and some hard weaned calves. But we're also starting to see a lot of new crop calves starting to show up. They're light in weight, not as attractive to the buyers because it's starting to get warm here, and it's going to be getting warmer pretty quick, and you don't want a lot of fresh ballers around when it first starts getting hot, guys. But good market throughout everywhere. I was in Fallon, Nevada on Friday at Nevada Livestock Marketing. They had 4,400 head for their feeder special, and just unbelievable market for where we were at in the United States in northern Nevada, guys. There's not a major commercial feed yard for a long ways from around there. And most of your California grazing, those cattle have been turned out for a long time for winter grazing, but there's still there's a lot of plentiful hay out west, guys. They've had so much moisture out there. I talked to guys around there that said the pastures in California look as good as they've ever seen them, ever. We did see some of the cattle come back towards the Midwest, but the bulk of them probably stayed out west there. But look at this this market report that was put out by Nevada Livestock Marketing, and you see your 100-pound weight groups, and you see your average price. This is on steers only here. Your average price within that weight group, and then the extreme high. Thought it was pretty interesting. 3 to 4 weight steer calves had an average price of $394, but a high price of $442. 4 to 5 weight steers averaged $347 with a extreme high of $385. 5 to 6 weight steers averaged $309 in Fallon, Nevada at Nevada Livestock Marketing with an extreme high of $338. 6 to 7 weight steers averaged 281, had a top of 301. 7 to 8 weight steers averaged 254 with an extreme high of 267. 8 to 9 weight steers averaged 236 way out in northern Nevada with a high, extreme high of 247. And some 9 weight steers, and we had several of those, they had an average price of 218 and an extreme high on 9 weight steers, guys, of 230. Thought that was pretty impressive. They had some individual quotes that were very impressive too, including 97 steers weighed 563 at 312.50, and another 96 head of 438 pound steer calves that have been hard little calves and bring 374. My buddy Tato Medina Wallace that has Santa Teresa livestock auction down on the Texas-Mexico border, Santa Teresa, New Mexico. He had a good special sale there on Friday, and he sent me some pictures last week of illegals crossing, and they found that the pins there at Santa Teresa are a good place to cross. So they're jumping over the pins, and then the main gate that goes from Mexico into the United States is probably 30 foot high, and he showed me pictures of them scaling that thing and going right over and then gone, and not just a few of them. And he told me they did not appear to be Mexicans, which that doesn't surprise you anymore. But at his auction sale, which is just down from the pins there, a little bit further into New Mexico there, at Santa Teresa livestock auction, he had some extreme quotes there. 71 little doodler steer calves weighed 301. These are Mexican cattle coming into the United States. They've already jumped through all the hoops. All you got to do is back your truck up and load them. 301 pounds at 350, 250. 67 steers weighed 433 at 320. Give you some individual quotes from around. How about Fort Pierre livestock auction in Fort Pierre, South Dakota? They sold 99 steers weighed 509 on Friday at 368. About Magnus livestock, and that's in Huron, South Dakota. 69 steers weighed 790 at 273.50. Wow. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere last week, late last week or over the weekend, in your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Harried livestock in Harried, South Dakota. 57 steers weighed 7 1/4 at 296.50. That's your feeder flash for Monday.